Some things are so insane, they defy explanation. But when the camera rolls, even the impossible becomes undeniable. 1. Kid rescuers versus fire.
Oh man, get out! Get out! Get out! I got your dogs out! I got the dogs! I got the dogs! Call 911.
These two boys, aged 12 and 13, were going about their day on their bikes when they heard the fire alarm blaring from one of the neighbors' homes. As soon as they figured out what it was, they sprung into action. They went up to the door, only to hear 3 dogs barking inside.
Call 911! Call 911! Call 911! Get out!
One of the boys had a family member who lost their dog to a house fire, so he knew exactly what was at stake. He rang the neighbor, called 911, and opened the door to let the dogs out. Both boys stayed with the dogs until the owners got back and saved their lives. Turns out, one of the dogs had turned the electric stove on, and the wooden chopping board on it caught fire. If it weren't for the quick thinking of these two boys, the worst could have happened. 2. Near kidnapping.
Oh my god! Bro, he just tried to abduct us!
These boys were playing out in their neighborhood. It was a fairly large group, and the middle of the day, so they should have ideally been safe, but that's not what happened. One of the boys ran screaming back to his house, followed by the rest of his friends. They were calling out for help, saying, "Someone's trying to kidnap us."
Oh, someone's trying to kidnap us! It came out my car! Ask me to come in! Someone's trying to kidnap Jay!
The whole thing caught on the doorbell camera. It was a white SUV, and the man inside was asking the kids to sit in the car, but they were able to scream and get to an adult just in time. 3. Solo bike. These motorcyclists were riding home, but one of the bikes had other plans. After the rider got into an accident and fell off on a very busy highway, the bike decided that he was just extra weight and just kept on going. It drove on and on, crossed all the heavy traffic in its path, and steered itself to safety. There was an ambulance nearby, and the driver ended up making it to the hospital and suffered no financial losses in the accident because his bike ended up being smarter than everyone there. 4. Fired up. Ever wondered why they ask you to turn off your engine at a gas station? Well, these people learned that lesson the hard way. The girl was refueling the bike, while the guy kept revving the engine anyway. It's unclear what he thought he'd achieve from it, but it couldn't have been this. The entire bike burst into flames, and because they panicked and basically threw the bike at the pump, it caught on fire too. The worst part is that there wasn't even an extinguisher at the station, so all everyone could do was just wait and watch the whole situation go from bad to worse. 5. Missing cat dropping home. This 8-year-old cat had been missing for days after she moved to a new neighborhood. The owner had lost all hope that she'd ever see her again. But right as that happened, the cat walked herself back home and rang the doorbell. It had a camera that automatically detected movement and alerted the owner. As soon as the screen turned on, you could hear the cat meowing, asking to be let back into the house. 6. Cat outsmarts coyote. This wild cat found itself being chased by a coyote. Unsure what else it could do, it decided to hide out on a porch. The coyote followed it there too, and it nearly became dinner when it realized cats can climb. So, it set its eyes on a post and started climbing up. The coyote tried to get it, but soon figured out that wasn't going to happen. So, it saw its meal hanging way above its head and backed away. The cat being smart, waiting for the threat to be far enough away before sliding down and getting away. 7. Golfing kangaroos. Australia is home to kangaroos, and they make sure to let everyone know that. These kangaroos live on a golf course and kind of act like the guardians of the whole place. When these guys were trying to break the rules, they sprung into action and decided to chase them around. One guy in particular really seemed to get off on the wrong foot here. He tried to fight off the kangaroo with one of his clubs, but this animal is pure muscle. You can't fight these guys. 8. Kangaroo versus drone. Kangaroos aren't just great at fighting off golfers, they also like their privacy and won't let anyone infringe on it. So, when this one particular drone got a little too close for their taste, one of them decided to take it down. The funny part about this is that the person flying the drone even tried to get it away from the angry kangaroo, but he wasn't able to. But hey, at least he got a pretty great clip of it all before going down. 9. Flying child. Kite festivals are all about having the biggest and most impressive kites you can possibly bring to the event. These people did just that, but they didn't know what it was capable of. While preparing for liftoff, they didn't realize that it was so big that it would take the child holding it with it. It did just that, and the child went soaring, flying above everyone watching underneath. For a few seconds, no one even knew what to do. Once they were able to wrap their heads around what was going on, they pulled the child down to safety. But without this video, her friends would have never believed this story. 10. Elevator dog. Small dogs can be so silent that you wouldn't notice them there, or not there. This woman entered the elevator, thinking her dog was right behind her, but it had stopped right outside. She still had the leash in her hand, so as the elevator went up, the dog got yanked right up there with it. It hung around for a while, until a man came and noticed what was going on. He instantly got the dog off the leash and held him in his arms until the owner was able to come back down to get it. 11. Iceberg race. These Arctic experts were looking for polar bears to study in their natural habitat. But because they're usually so well camouflaged in the snow, they had to get up close to figure out where they could possibly be. That could work, in theory, but the natural work is super unexpected. Just as they were getting somewhere, they heard a crack. Soon after, ice began falling in huge chunks off of the iceberg they were under. Thankfully, they were in a speedboat and acted very fast, so they were able to zoom on out of there with the massive waves right behind them. 12. Doggy lifeguard. This little dog didn't watch where it was going, slipped, and fell right into the pool. It was out alone and didn't know how to safely get out of the pool either. Being too small to just use the stairs to get out, it began struggling to stay afloat. For a while, it seemed like it was going to get from bad to worse, but then its older brother came running. Knowing that jumping in would just mean two dogs would be stuck in the water, it tried to guide the little one out. It took a grueling 34 minutes for them to figure it out, but they eventually did. Not only did the older dog get him out of the water, but it also guided him all the way out of the pool, to the porch, back to the inside of the house. It was not going to take any chances. 13. Dingdong ditch gone wrong. Almost everyone has been through a phase where they or their friends ding-dong ditched houses in their neighborhood. That's what this kid thought he was doing, but not only did he pull up to a house that had a doorbell camera, it also caught the funniest escape ever. The kid rang the bell, freaked out, and fell, only to get up and fall over again. The boy was struggling to get out of the frame and ended up basically pranking himself through it all. 14. Inside the storm. This guy was trying to get home before the storm got worse, but was a little too late to that. He got caught right in the middle of it, and his dash cam got it all on video. You can see the point where it goes from winds to extreme weather and zero visibility. The only thing he could do at this moment was just sit and hope it passed over him. It did, but not before scarring him for life. This is one story he's always going to tell at family barbecues. 15. Drift into the cops. Having a cool car means you're probably going to want to show it off any chance you get. This man's Lamborghini was getting quite the attention, so he decided to give everyone a little show. He revved his engine so loud that all the people in the area turned their heads to him. After that, he sped out onto the road before making a very impressive little drift turn. What he didn't see was that it wasn't just regular people paying attention to him, but cops too. He just about drifted right in front of them, and well, the second that happened, the police sirens were blaring. They got into chasing him, but because he had a supercar, he was able to run away from them. They even tried to get the plates from the people that were filming him, but it didn't work. He wasn't arrested and walked away with his very own version of Fast and Furious. 16. Final destination. Runaway tires can be one of the most unexpected things you see on a highway, but they happen all the time. When they do, though, it's almost never straight out to the side. This tire came loose and basically set a target on the car next to the truck and hit it out of nowhere. The car did not see it coming, nor did it have any time at all to get away from it. Because of the sudden impact, the car was launched into the air and was absolutely destroyed. When it all came to a halt, the tire came back, as if it had missed a spot. While this crash was horrible to see, the way it all happened kept the car driver completely unharmed. He was strapped into his seat and was able to walk away from this unbelievable incident in one piece. 17. Man saved by the public. Mind the gap isn't a warning at every train station for no reason. No matter how small or obvious the gap might seem, there are always people that don't see it. This man ended up being one of them, as he slipped right in there as he was making his way onto the train. Thankfully, it was rush hour, and the train station was full of good Samaritans waiting to jump in and help. They all banded together and generated enough force that they were able to push the train off to one side and set the man's leg free. He was able to climb out of the hole completely unharmed. Imagine telling someone hundreds of people got you out of a train accident. It would sound totally made up without the accompanying video. 18. The parrot who cried wolf. This man was just hanging out, working on his car in his driveway, when the police pulled up on him. They'd gotten a complaint from a neighbor who said that they could hear a woman screaming, "Let me out," from inside his house all day. Even they could hear the voices coming from his house, and it seemed very strange that the man didn't even care until they got there. When they questioned him about it, he told them the whole situation is a little too weird to explain, so he asked them to wait a minute and he'd set it all straight. He went inside the house and pulled up with a green parrot. He's had the parrot his whole life, and when he was a child, taught him to say, "Let me out," anytime he wanted to be taken out of his cage. Well, almost 40 years later, this parrot still likes to scream the phrase whenever he wants out, or just some attention. On this particular day, he got both. Now, 4 cops are going to have to explain the situation to the neighbor who complained. 19. A little boop. After a day of hanging out with his mum and brother, this guy was going home on his bike. Before he did, his mum told him to watch out for idiots and drive safely.
Drive safe.
Yep.
Watch out for idiots.
He told her he would and went on his way. He wasn't even out of the parking lot yet and he got rear-ended. That wasn't the shocking part about all this. It was the fact that his mum was the one who hit him. She was driving alongside him and saw him the whole time, yet she wasn't able to hit the brakes in time. The guy immediately knew it was his mom, and she was so embarrassed that she couldn't even bring herself to come up to him and see if he was okay. She was just perched up in her own car, hoping that all of this was just a nightmare and that she was about to wake up. He was okay, but she's never going to be able to live this one down. 20. Dangerous waters. You'd think you're safe from traffic when you're out in the open waters, but it might not be that simple. Bad drivers are everywhere, even in the middle of the sea. This guy thought he could have a peaceful fishing day with his friend, but getting hit by a speedboat was not on his agenda. It happened anyway, and somehow, the few pedals he got in before the boat made contact might have been the only reason he got out of this situation with just a broken steering mechanism. He was able to continue fishing that day and got all his stuff back. But this is a friendly reminder that no matter where you are or how calm things seem, always be aware of your surroundings. 21. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Boats aren't the only things you need to watch out for in the open waters. Sometimes it's jet skis. Sure, jet skis don't sound very threatening on their own, but paired with a driver that doesn't understand risk, they're basically ticking time bombs. This man had the bright idea to, on purpose, drive straight into a cargo boat. He kept his jet ski just a little bit off the side, so he wouldn't make contact immediately, but he still ended up losing control. He clearly got way closer than he was intending to, and fully freaked out. It was so bad that he had to use his hands to push the jet ski away from the boat, and Loki went under for a while. Eventually, he managed to get out of the wave and away from the boat, but what does he do next? Go right back to it. He's just asking to get hit by this one. 22. Paddle weapon. Who doesn't like a great day out in the ocean? That's what this guy thought he was getting, until he noticed something swimming around his kayak. It was so fast that at first he couldn't even tell what it was, but soon he knew it was something straight out of a Jaws movie. A hammerhead shark was swimming all around his kayak, and it was clear that he was the target. He was familiar with the danger because of all the time he'd spent in the water, but this was his first encounter with a shark this aggressive. He did have a knife to defend himself with, but he didn't want to hurt the shark. The kayak would have been like paper if the shark decided to chew through it. So, he did the first thing that came to his mind and started smacking it with his paddle. He knew that he was in the shark's space, not the other way around, so this was going to be the only thing he could do. It took him a good 20 hits before there was enough distance between him and the shark for him to make his way back to the shore. They both got out of there safe, but both have a story for a lifetime. 23. Friendly shark. Shark attacks might be less common than cow attacks, but that doesn't mean people don't come in contact with sharks often. People on this beach were having fun, surfing, unaware of the danger that lurked right under their feet. It was a massive, great white shark, swimming right between them, making its rounds. For almost an hour, this shark constantly circles around the people, but they didn't even notice it. The crazy part is, that it didn't seem to care about them either. It was almost like there was a mutual understanding that no one was going to ruin this beach day for anyone, and everyone honored that. 24. Twiggy. There may be high-skill athletes all over the world, but none of them come close to the sheer talent and pizzazz of Twiggy the squirrel. This little girl isn't messing around when it comes to water sports. She does laps around the pool on her water skis and even interacts with the crowd that's gathered to see her. That stage presence is unparalleled. 25. Safety shed. When you live in Alaska, it's not the most unexpected thing to come across a moose, but it sure is still terrifying when it happens. Moose are huge, and they can do some serious damage if they want to. So you'd ideally want to stay as far away from them as you possibly can. This man was just being a good guy and taking the trash out despite it being super snowy outside. When he got to his trash shed, he put the bags in, and as he was turning back, he saw it. A moose, walking straight to him. Most of us would scream at this point, but not this guy. He was cooler than the snow all around him. He looked away within a second and hid in the shed with the trash. The moose didn't have the key, nor did it care enough to break open the door, so it just walked away. 26. Tiny shoplifter. There's a lot of security at stores nowadays, and you can't exactly walk away with something if you do decide to steal something. But this bird didn't get the memo here, or it's an international super spy. It walked into the store, knowing exactly what the target was: a bag of chips. Without a care in the world, it walked right up to the bags and grabbed its favorite flavor. Seconds later, it walked out of the store with the bounty. But it didn't just devour it the second it left. It stopped right outside and let out the most villainous laugh, so everyone knows it got away with the crime. This was so genius that you have to let it get away with it. 27. Musical intruder. No one wants an intruder in their house, especially not a massive bear. This bear broke into the house and was rummaging through their things. To do that, he also had to look around and see if there's anything major he could take. But it proved one thing right that day: no one can resist a grand piano. Whether we know how to play it or not, this is one thing you have to try. So, he did just that, while staring off into the garden view. Once he'd gotten that out of the way, he got right back to it and went to rummaging through the other rooms in the house. 28. Takeout. Bears aren't just good for playing music now, they've gotten so domesticated that they even know their way around homes. These guys know exactly where we humans keep certain things, like how fridges have food. They're so sophisticated that they even know the food in the freezer stays fresh for longer. That's why this bear walked right up to the freezer, opened it, and grabbed the frozen lasagna. What's even funnier is that it didn't even take him a second to use the height from the open freezer to climb out of the open window. It just walked away from the whole thing, like it had done this a million times. Can't tell if this is a real bear or a teenager in disguise. 29. Fastest bowling strike ever. Jason Belmonte isn't the #1 bowler in the world for no reason. This man has some serious skill. While he's able to hit strikes in the alley with ease, there's only so far your talent can go, right? Well, maybe for him, it's limitless. He attempted to hit the fastest strike ever by doing it from a moving race car. The speed was up to 140 miles per hour when he attempted, and he hit a perfect strike. The pins basically exploded on impact, and he proved to the world that if there's a pin to hit, he's going to get it down, no matter what's going on. 30. Weed whacked. Some people seem like easy targets, and this man looked like one of them. He's a gardener, trimming grass with his weed whacker for a client while his truck was parked in the street. He noticed that some people grabbed equipment out of his truck and were trying to get away, narrowly hitting him with their car on their way, but he wasn't going to stand and do nothing. The man threw his weed whacker at their getaway car before taking it back and threatening one of the thieves with it. It got so scary that he pretty much took him down on his own. The thieves were located by the police later that day, but it wouldn't have been possible without the bravery he showed. Would you have a weed whacker in your arsenal?